Today is July 12th, 2026, and welcome to the 496th episode of the Videogames podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway, and I'm the one-man host of the show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a reviews website that offers full accessibility information on every review that we publish. Hello! Thank you for joining me today here on the show on this lovely, for me anyway, Sunday afternoon. It's nice because it's been extremely hot here as we continue to warm globally. Watch out for that. That's trouble. But we are fortunate in that it's an overcast day. It's cool. Got the windows open, the doors open, breeze coming in the house. It's nice for the moment, so I'm going to just enjoy this and get this podcast recorded. Okay, one thing really quickly before we move on to the show, and if you don't like political stuff, jump ahead like maybe a minute. Just want to say we've had big news this week in the United States. Senator Mitch McConnell is either dead or brain dead and has been in hiding for about a month. They've been hiding his body so that they don't have to replace his seat, which is actually illegal. And just yesterday, Senator Lindsey Graham has been announced as dead. I'm glad both of these rotten sons of bitches are dead, and I hope they both rot in hell. And if you're the kind of person that thinks you should never speak ill of the dead, well, let me just remind you that both of these two men are greatly responsible, largely responsible for so much death and suffering of millions and millions of people, not only here in America, but also globally. They've been instigators of war, institutors of racism, institutionalizing all sorts of negative anti-human laws that have done so much damage to people over the years. I'm glad they're fucking dead. I'm glad they're gone, and there's nothing good to say about them. You know, it's kind of to me like when someone has cancer and they remove the cancer, no one mourns the cancer, right? Like, you're glad that the body is still alive. You're glad you're still around. That's how I feel about these guys. These guys are gone. It's like removing cancer from America. They were two fucking awful people. So evil for so many reasons. Glad they're fucking gone. Rot in hell, you sons of bitches. All right, moving on. Let's get to the housekeeping. What do we have this week? From Ron. Ron sent me a link to an article. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it, buddy. To an article saying that the Subnautica 2 people, the Unknown Worlds CEO resigns as their publisher Krafton agrees to pay a $250 million bonus. This is actually great news. So this was reported by Vicky Blake in Games Industry. So just props to that person for doing the reporting. Thank you very much. This is like a long, convoluted story. I don't know all the ins and outs, but basically when Subnautica 2 was being developed, the publisher Krafton, who is kind of shady, I guess, they have recently, I mean, I don't know how long they've been in the games field, but I remember seeing their name pop up a couple years ago, and like not really anything they've been associated with has really been that great as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'm misunderstanding or overlooking something, but they just, I don't know, something sketchy about those folks. Anyway, they had been in charge of Subnautica 2. I'm sure most people listening to this podcast know that Subnautica was a great hit, great game. It was very nearly my game of the year it came out. Is so close. But they had promised Subnautica 2 a bunch of money for hitting certain milestones or something like that, I guess, whatever. And through some convoluted thing that happened, the publisher Krafton kept delaying and causing problems. And because of that, it caused the Subnautica 2 people to miss all of their marks, and they didn't get their money. I mean, $250 million, that's nothing to sneeze at. So it was just basically shenanigans and dirty business on the part of the publisher. So the Subnautica devs got, rightfully so, really upset about it. And I think there was some squabble back and forth. They were saying they were going to release the game on their own to fuck the publisher, and the publisher was suing them, and back and forth and whatever. Long story short, it looks like they are going to get their $250 million. Part of the deal is that the head of the studio of Subnautica 2 has to resign. Not sure exactly why, maybe because they were threatening to release the game, possibly. There's a lot of stuff going on, but basically, long story short, the people at Subnautica are going to get their money, which is what they needed, and anything else would have been bullshit. So I'm glad that this thing came through. Please feel free to read up on that on your own if you want more further details. And thanks to Ron again for sending this my way. Past that, there is an announcement. I recently talked about Star Trek Online jumping into this. This game is like 15 or 16 years old or something like that. And I just started playing because I've been in such a Star Trek kick lately. So I was having fun. I mean, it's still old and janky and has all sorts of problems. The graphics not great. But if you're into Star Trek, it may be worth a look. So I was having fun with it. And they just announced, I mean, the game is still going. Like, it's still like a live game. They're still making new content for it, which is incredible. So I got a PR piece here that says Arc Games and Cryptic Studios announced that Star Trek Online Undiscovered is the latest season of the free-to-play Star Trek MMORPG. It's available on PC. Console players can get in on this adventure beginning July 28th. So this is a reimagining of Star Trek Online's beloved, the quote-unquote ultimate Klingon storyline, revisiting the early years of the game and featuring the return of Star Trek Voyager actors Robert Picardo as the Doctor and Lisa Locicero as Moral Paris. So that's cool. If you're into Star Trek, I think that is great news. Looking forward to that. And in question mark news, heavily question mark news, Asha Sharma, the person who I believe was formerly of Instacart and then got appointed to be the head of Xbox and who has recently been restructuring, said a lot of cool things, but then turned around and laid off like several thousand people. Maybe it was needed, maybe it wasn't, I don't know. But in general, I don't like people getting laid off. She was just named the U.S. Federal Reserve Advisor on AI and Productivity. And I think the entire games industry said, what? Random? Weird? What is this? What? Like, why is this happening? I mean, maybe she knows her shit. Maybe. I'm not sure that she's really proven herself at Xbox yet, although she seems to be mostly taking good steps forward, although I think a lot of people would argue that with all the layoffs, and I think that's something that we really need to look at. And again, my heart goes out to people who have been recently laid off. I feel really bad for you. Hope you get employed soon. But putting her on some kind of like federal commission to talk about how you run the rest of the country, what does she know about that? I mean, I think we were all like looking at her sideways coming from Instacart to Xbox, and still TBD on that. But then to say that she's somehow done something that's so notable, or she is so skilled that she needs to advise the rest of the country? What? I don't know, man. Like, I don't know her personally or even really professionally outside of what we've heard from her move to Xbox. But I'd be looking sideways at anybody from the games industry getting picked to go and advise anything federally. And also I'm looking at the federal people sideways because it's a fucking fascist regime. So this all just feels very strange and very weird. I mean, is it stranger and weirder than anything else that happens in this godforsaken country? I mean, I guess debatably not. But still, like, wow, like what the fuck? Anyway, I don't know. That's a thing. That's a thing. All right, let's move on here. As I said at the top of the show, I am the editor of GameCritics.com, and I do like to shine a little spotlight on things you might have missed if you haven't popped over lately. Let's click on over right now, and let's see what we did in the last week or so. We published, let's see, the transcript for the So Videogames double 007 first light review. You heard it here already, so that's not new content. But for people who don't listen to the podcast, or if you're curious about which text is going to go up on Metacritic, that's the transcript right there. Published the Dead or Alive 6 last round review from Darren Foreman. He is a fighting game expert. I don't think anybody would question that. He knows his shit inside and out, and he was not too pleased with this particular release. I think he's a fan of Dead or Alive in general, but the devs seem to be kind of like nickel and diming people with crazy DLC practices. And this is a re-release of a game from 7 years ago, and it barely has any changes or anything new to it. So it feels a little bit like a cash grab, which is unfortunate. We have a first look for a game called Scramble Star Crossing. I am pretty sure this came from the Black Voices in Gaming Showcase lately, and Eugene Sachs was in charge of that one. We also have a review of TR49 from Inkle by Bretton Campbell, so check that one out if you wish. And I'm not sure what else I think. Whatever. Okay, so there's stuff like that. If you want some written reviews, long form, insightful reviews, things to make you go, videos, etc., stuff that you cannot get here on the podcast, I would invite you warmly and friendly wise to go over to GameCritics.com, check it out, see what's over there. Also, the GameCritics.com YouTube channel is still there, at GameCritics.com videos. We throw up all of Eugene's video content, some other video content, a lot of trailers and think pieces, stuff like that. So check that out if you wish. And at this point, I would generally do circle backs, but I have not really been circling back to anything. I've been pretty busy with new stuff, so we're going to skip that this week and get right to the brand new content. Okay, I actually ended up with a lot more this week than I thought I was going to, which is a good problem to have. First up, Slay the Princess, the Pristine cut, playing that on my brand spanking new Switch 2, which I talked about a couple episodes ago. The dev was talking about it on Blue Sky or something like that. It caught my attention, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was meant to come back to that. I dipped into it on PC a while ago and kind of bounced because I don't really play much on PC, but apparently the Pristine cut, which is the final, deluxe version, is on Switch 2. I think it's also on Switch. And it's got all the things. And I asked them, I'm like, yo, is there any edited content or is it the full thing? And they're like, no. It's like the full thing, exactly the same as PC, which was great news to me. So I jumped right in. So I'm just going to touch on this briefly. This is basically a visual novel where you play an unnamed character, or at least unnamed at the beginning. And I haven't played very far, so I can't really spoil anything because I haven't really played that much. But you go into like a house on a hill, and in the basement of the hill is a princess chained up in the dungeon. And the narrator's voice who's talking to you is like, yo, you got to kill her. And that, of course, rightfully so, sets off a lot of warning bells, and you're kind of wondering what's going on. And the game kind of progresses from there. Now, I played this a little bit on PC, liked it, but didn't get very far. I played this on Switch 2, and again, didn't get very far. I really feel like this game will ultimately be my jam, but I find it a little bit difficult to get into. I think the art is great. There's a lot of voice work, which I didn't know at first because I usually play the Switch with no sound on. If y'all are familiar with me and the podcast, I play a shitload of Switch, but I'm usually playing in bed. My wife is usually next to me asleep, and sometimes I've had headphones and sometimes I don't. I don't know, it just depends. But sometimes it's a hassle or I can't find them or whatever. And I usually just play just with no sound. I mean, it's a thing that I do. It's no big deal. I know that freaks some people out, but I very frequently, number one, can't talk, and number two, play games with no sound on. It's just a thing I do. So anyway, as I start playing this, you get into the intro. There's a lot of talking back and forth. I think I will have to turn the sound on because I think I'm missing out on not hearing the various voices that come in. I think that definitely adds something to it. So I'll have to give that another shot. But as you go in, you make your decision the first time, and then I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say, because this happens like in the first 5 minutes of the game. You either kill or don't kill the princess, whatever you decide, and then the game resets, and you're going back through in this kind of like deja vu loop. And you're supposed to make different choices the next time to get different outcomes. Apparently there's like loads of different endings and loads of different things can happen. It's a really twisty, turny visual novel from what I understand. But something about it is just like, it kind of puts me to sleep. And I'm not trying to slag it at all. I'm not trying to insult it, but it's just like, there's so much reading. And I think when I get to the part where I'm rereading stuff I've already read, I don't know if there's settings I need to change or something to where I can maybe just skip through stuff I've already seen. But like, I feel like I am rereading a lot of stuff that I've already read, and I'm trying to remember which is the one that I didn't choose last time. And as far as I can tell, there's no little marker about, okay, last time you chose A, why don't you choose B this time? Like, I don't think there's any notations, or maybe there is and I don't know about it. I should go back and check the settings. But at my quick cursory look through it, I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I'm reading the exact same thing again and making somewhat different choices, but I don't feel like a lot is changing. So I'm not sure if it's just like a me problem. Maybe I keep accidentally choosing the same things over and over, or maybe I just need to push on and get further or something. But like, I feel like I really would like this once I crack it. I feel like it's my thing. I like the concept, challenging, there's all sorts of, narrative twists that come up, but I just like, this opening is like so slow. I feel like they need to get into it a little bit more. And I think somehow, like when appropriate, like letting me know what I already have chosen and what I've already seen so I can skip past that part and get to the new stuff might be a big help for me specifically. So TBD on this. I think I'm going to like it. I just need to get further. So no further comment at this time, but I will say, it runs great on the Switch. It's, of course, it looks great, easy to read. It's all fine. So there's no technical issues whatsoever. So I think that's a good thing. But I will come back to it. I'm still gonna chip my way through it. I got it on deck for later today, after I finish this podcast. I think the rest of the day I'm gonna just focus on that and just really get a cup of coffee and try to just get past the part that I feel like I'm kind of stuck at. So, okay. There's that. Slay the Princess, the Pristine cut on Switch 2. Also tried a game called Somber Echoes. This was on sale on PS5. I was flipping through the PS5 store and just seeing what was on sale. It was like $3 or something like that. This is a 2D roguelike, and what caught my attention was two basic things. Number one, people said that it was a pretty straightforward roguelike, which is fine for me. I think that maybe I don't like the super complicated ones. I guess it depends on what the complication is. But beyond that, the thing that caught my attention was it is like a blend of Greek myths combined in a sci-fi futuristic setting. So from what I gather, and the story is a little bit convoluted, you're on some kind of a spaceship or a space station, super high tech, but inside the space station, I mean, there is also high tech there, but also lots of like Greek statuary and imagery. They use the names of many famous Greek characters, and they have some Greek storytelling, integrated into that, but it's also very clearly a 2D Metroidvania and a sci-fi game as well. So I love when who's they? Anybody's they. I love when people like take myths or stories that we are very familiar with and then kind of like spin them sideways. So taking Greek myths and adding a sci-fi spin was pretty cool. I like that a lot. So I jump into the game. Graphics are fine, a little basic maybe. I think the level design is a little basic. But the map is clear and good. Combat is all right. It feels like every enemy takes exactly 4 sword swipes to kill, which is kind of boring. And I haven't unlocked any other powers or anything. I'm like pretty early in the game. Just basically scratched the surface of it. Wanted to have a little something extra to talk about in the show today. So the storytelling feels like it is written by a non-English speaker, which is no problem. But if you are a non-English speaker, I would advise you to maybe spend a little bit more time on the translation and just make sure that it comes off the way that you want it to. And that advice would be for anybody. I mean, I'm not being, precious about English. I mean, whatever. If I was an English person translating a game into Japanese, I would say, hey, get a really good Japanese translator. Or if I was an English person translating into Brazilian, I'd say, hey, get a really good Portuguese translator, or, something like that. So I'm not being precious about English. I'm just saying, if you're going to translate, do it well. Because, in real life, I am a professional interpreter and translator. That's what I do for my job, for real. And I think it's important, and I think you can do it really well. So when people do it, I want them to do it well. So that's where I'm coming from. Anyway, the thing that's really notable about this game, beyond the Greek theme, is the jumping is kind of wild, and I kind of love it. So after the first initial battle, you get a power from one of the Greek gods, and you jump up and you hold a button, and then you turn into a ball of fire, and you just stay there. You can just hover for forever if you want to. And after you have yourself hovering, you can choose any direction that you want and then push the button and you rocket off into that direction. So it helps you get up to really high heights, and they've gone very vertical in this game. Lots of heights to scale and lots of places that seem inaccessible until you remember, oh right, I'm a floating ball of fire that can shoot myself like a rocket, and then all of a sudden things become accessible. So that feels pretty cool, and I like that. That's a neat idea. I don't think it really necessarily relates to being Greek in any way or anything like that. I think it's just kind of a fun idea they had, which is fine. I like fun. I like ideas. I like both those things. So that's pretty cool. And beyond that, it seems fairly straightforward. But again, I was kind of looking for that. I wasn't looking for anything super, super complicated. Nothing super in depth. I wasn't looking for a ton of lore or anything like that. So I think it is basic for sure. I think it would be a good one for people who are not super educated or experienced with the roguelike genre. I think that's pretty straightforward and good. The jumping is really fun. The theming is really fun. So we'll see. TBD on this. It seems all right. Perhaps a little bit generic if they don't add anything that's really interesting powers-wise, but I'm too early to say. So just basically a heads up that this game exists, and if you like Greek stuff, if you like the Greek or mythological / sci-fi blending, if you like a neat jumping system, maybe check this out. And as of the time of recording, it was $3 on PSN. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good level of investment to try something out. That's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So I think that's a good price for entry there. So there you go. That is Somber Echoes. Up next, we have Dead Estate. This was originally published in 2021. I got this in an email from just randomly out of the blue. The developer or publisher of the game, I think it might be the developer, just emailed us just randomly and said, hey, here's my game. Please check it out. It's now on Switch/Switch 2. Please try it. And I'm like, okay, yes, I will. This is a roguelike that is action, real-time action. You play either a man or a woman going into a haunted house. There's like zero story, and that's totally fine. I don't need a story for something like this. You go in, it's an isometric viewpoint, which I think is a little bit problematic. But you go inside a house, each room is exactly the size of one screen, but tilted like a 3/4 view. And so you jump in there and you start off, the guy starts with a stock pistol and the girl starts with a stock shotgun. Both of them are basically pea shooters when you begin the game. And then you go from room to room, like each room by each room. There's a little map in the corner to tell you where to go. And each room will have like either a fight or it'll have a random item that you can pick up, a random artifact or a weapon. Sometimes you'll get a weapon dealer, you'll get a nurse, you'll get a witch. I think there might be one other person in there. And sometimes it'll just be a weird thing. And so you just kind of go from room to room blasting these monsters. You go in, the door's shut, shoot the monsters, kill all the monsters, doors open, you move on. So pretty straightforward action, but I think it's pretty neat because it's very fast paced. It's very just dip in, dip out, like the gunplay. Well, okay. So a couple things. So I like the idea. I like roguelikes. You know, I do. I'm a Mr. Roguelike. I like action-y games. This is that. Combining roguelike and action is really good. It's got a little bit of a feeling kind of similar to like Binding of Isaac or something like that, where if you've played that game, that level of like run around and shoot combined with the roguelike structure is kind of what they're going for. But I think the isometric viewpoint changes things for the... okay, for worse. Probably for worse, if I'm being honest with y'all. Okay, so a couple of things. The controls are a little bit squirrely at first. I had to go into the menus, and what did I do? I changed the weapon aiming speed all the way up, but then I also changed the stick dead zone all the way up as well. Because when I first started playing, it felt fucking squirrely as hell, and I could not get the grip of it. So I had to go back in, tweak things for a little while. So you're moving with the left stick, shooting with the right stick. Or no. You are aiming with the right stick and shooting with the right trigger. I kind of wish that they had an option to just have the shooting automatically on the right stick, because I feel like moving the right stick as much as you need to and holding down the right trigger as often as you do is just kind of like tiresome on the hands. Developer, sir, if you're listening, if you could put like an auto fire function, maybe just make it a toggle if you wish or something in the menu, that would be great, because there's not really a lot of occasion where you're not wanting to be shooting. So anyway, small detail. So there's that. I think I had to like fix the controls. And I will say this game is hard to play, feels hard to play when you're doing handheld on the Switch 2, just because I just don't think that the Switch 2's control sticks are great for like fast action. Something about holding it just feels weird. And I ended up getting the Pro controller out and just docking the Switch 2, putting it on my TV and using the Pro controller. And it feels great that way. That feels great. So that's where I'm playing it, having a lot of fun with that. I think the action is fast and fun. The monsters are goopy and weird and gross. But I think my big problem, if I had to pick one thing that was a big problem with this game that is so far kind of unsolvable, is that I think the isometric viewpoint causes some problems with 3D depth perception, because sometimes some of these monsters are flying in the air, and when they are above you, it's kind of hard to tell, are they just higher up in the room or are they like literally higher in altitude? And also many of the monsters spit like, I don't know, sweat or blood or something, and it's hard to tell where those things are going to land. There are little drop shadows underneath them, but like there's usually a lot going on, and it happens so fast that it's really kind of hard to tell, is that going to hit me? Is it not going to hit me? And it just feels kind of cheap to take some of that damage from, like, you shoot a guy and then he explodes into blood, and some of that blood like flies up in the air and you think you know where it is, but it's not there, and it hits you and you lose some life, and that feels a little bit cheap. And in this game, you don't have very much life. I think you start off with 4 points of life, and one hit will take down 1 full point. So you've only got like 4 hits until you're dead, which is not very much. You can increase that later on, but I think I think the depth perception does not work in its favor. And in that sense, I kind of wish it was like strictly top down, so you can tell exactly where the bullets are. You can jump But again, I think the depth perception doesn't really quite work in isometric, and I think that's always been a thing for as long as video games have been a thing. I mean, I can think of many games way back in the day. I think most notably The Immortal, if you're old enough to remember that. The Immortal was like the exact poster child for why you don't want to do isometric and using 3 dimensions at the same time. It just doesn't quite work that well. But it's not a game breaker, right? Like, it's not a game breaker. I think it's a problem. I've taken a few cheap hits that I kind of am, a little bit salty about. But in general, I think this game is pretty fun. I think the graphics are cute. When you get to the stores, all of the shopkeepers are like ridiculously well endowed, if that's a thing for you. It's certainly not a negative for me, but just heads up, like, you get the I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I feel like the boobs are getting bigger the further I get in the game. Maybe I'm imagining that, but it feels like they're like, oh shit, in the beginning. And then, like, you get to the next floor, I'm like, wait a minute, is your bust line getting bigger? And I got to, I think, the 3rd or the 4th floor, and I'm like, Jesus, like, what is... So I don't know if that's a joke, or maybe it's just my imagination, or maybe just the way that the characters are posed. But, like, for a minute, I'm like, it did seem like that the shopkeepers' boobs are getting bigger the further you get in the game, which is, I don't know, a funny thing if it's true. It's probably just my imagination. But I think the thing that also makes it work is that you get lots of different weapons. You can pick them up. You can only hold one at a time. All the extra weapons you get have limited ammo. And then from the shopkeepers, you have lots of different stuff. You can buy different weapons, different artifacts. And you do frequently pick up a lot of artifacts. And there seems to be a pretty good variety of stuff going on. Some things let you see secret rooms. One artifact I got turned my bullets into cookies, which was very funny. Sometimes enemies move slower. Sometimes you get protection from the back from any projectile. I mean, there's a wide variety of things to get. I think one of the things I got was like vampire teeth that lets me absorb the blood that has been hurting me. So that was good. There's like a whole bunch of things. So if you like Binding of Isaac and you like kind of a chibi Resident Evil style setting in a spooky haunted house, I think this game is actually really fun. I really like it a lot. I have not completed a run yet. I feel like I got pretty close last time, but have not cracked the code quite yet. But the runs are quick, and I think that works in its favor. Cute and fast and fun. And yeah, I don't like taking the isometric damage, but not a big deal. Not a huge deal anyway. And we'll just, I'm going to keep chipping away at this. Apparently there are lots of secret characters to unlock, and there's a lot more to the game than first appears. Also, when you start the game at the opening menu, there's like a whole second game in there. And I dipped into that real quick to see what it was, and it was like, oh, FYI, there are spoilers for the main game in this mode. If you care about that, then don't play this yet. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, respect. I backed out, but there's like a whole other second mode in there for people who want more content. I think it's great. I think it's fun. My only caveat is, like, I think it's best played with like the Pro controller, just for like just ease on your hands and just for accuracy and stuff. And don't forget to toggle like the settings. But overall, having a lot of fun with it. I think it's pretty cool. Dead Estate is pretty good stuff. All right, next up here, Intelligent Qube. This is originally published on, I want to say, PlayStation 2. Was it PlayStation 1? Was it PlayStation 2? I don't remember. It's one of the older PlayStations from back in the day. Published in 1997 originally. Man, I fucking loved this game when it came out originally. I went batshit over it at the time. It is now available on the PSN store for, I think, $10, which I think is great. So what is Intelligent Qube? If you don't remember, if you didn't see it before, if you're not old enough, that's fine. This is basically a 3D action puzzle game where you play a very small little dude made up of, I don't know, looks like about 15 triangles. Graphics are pretty basic. And so you are on an abstract puzzle playing field that's made up of cubes, gray cubes. It's just like this long ass rectangular thing floating in space made of gray cubes. And what you need to do is you need to remove the cubes. They're going to come like flipping towards you. Like it's a cube, so it cannot roll, but it's going to flip on its side, chunk, 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 and it kind of comes closer and closer towards you. Usually in rows of 4. So like an entire row of 4 cubes will come at you. So what you got to do is you need to run to the space where the cube is about to land when it flips over on its side. You mark the square where it's about to land. You get out of the way because it'll crush you if you don't get out of the way. But then you got to push the button before the cube lands and it'll destroy that cube. So basically you want to like remove these cubes. And the only way you can do that is by putting yourself in danger by going underneath the cube before it clonks down, and then getting out before it comes all the way down. So you want to do that. That sounds very simple, but it's actually much more challenging because they're rolling in real time. You got to get in and out, don't get crushed. And then some of the cubes have certain properties. Like when you get a green cube, most of them are gray, and those are just normal cubes. But you'll get a green cube, and when you get a green cube and you get rid of it, wherever you got rid of it, you cannot get rid of any more cubes. So it creates like these little dead zones on the playing field. So that's something you got to watch out for. You also get these black cubes that cannot be destroyed. So like sometimes you have to like lay a trap down. You got to let the black one roll across it and then get the gray cube that's in back of the black one. So they're like these like just barriers you have to kind of work around. But the entire time the row of cubes is rolling and rolling and clunking and clunking and clunking and pushing you further and further forward. And there is a limit to it. It's not infinite. So like if you can't get rid of the cubes, by the time you get to the end of the platform, it'll either the cubes will roll off the platform and they will count towards your negative score, and you can only lose so many before the game is over, or they'll just crush you. They'll crush you and then you fall to your death. And I believe the whole thing is supposed to be like a metaphor for like corporate life or capitalist life or something like that. The little man getting crushed underneath corporations. I think it fits. I think it works. I will say with this particular version, playing it on PS5, graphics are rough, definitely. They didn't really, I don't think, do anything to fix it up. I think this is just like the raw game from back in the day. But it still holds up. It's still really fun. You can still really play it easily. I think it's really addicting and stressful, and it's a good time. Back in the day when I played this on PS1 or 2, whatever it was, I finished it all the way. Like you start off as a guy. After you beat the entire game with a guy, you get a girl. And then after you beat the entire game with a girl, you get a dog. And after you beat the game with a dog, you get like a huge, I don't know, congratulations or something. I forget what it was. But I remember it was like guy, girl, dog. And I thought that was very funny when I saw the dog for the first time. But if you want like a really interesting, different sort of puzzle game that blends action and suspense and I guess theoretical capitalism and existential despair and loneliness and all that stuff, it's a really cool, fun game. It's a really interesting relic of the past, but still very playable. And for $10, again, I think that's a really great price for entry on this thing. Again, it looks like it is from that era, but I think if you don't really care about the shiniest graphics, it's not going to be a big deal. Still plays really fun. I'm having a blast with it, and it's really nice to be able to revisit after all this time. So definitely a thumbs up for sure if you like weird, scary puzzle games that make you feel all kinds of feelings in some kind of way. Intelligent Qube is that game. Great stuff. $10 on PSN. Check it out. All right, up next, let's check the script here. Oh yeah, Bellwright. Coming from developers called Donkey Team. I'm not familiar with them. Looks like they are just mostly PC developers. And that's just fine. Everybody's got their own thing to do. So this is an interesting one, and I actually had seen this one circulating for a while, but I didn't hear a lot of buzz, didn't hear a lot of people talking about it, and I couldn't get anybody on the team to take it on. So I was talking to the PR rep, who is a super cool dude, and I'm not going to name names, but if you're listening, what's up, bro? Word to your mother. And I was just like, well, you know, I couldn't really talk anybody into it, but maybe I'll give it a shot for the podcast. So he sent a code over. Thank you very much. And I just wasn't even sure what to make of it. But now that I have dipped into it for basically like a full day, I'm like super impressed. Yeah, I don't know that this is necessarily the game for me, but I think it's pretty amazing. So, okay, so let's get into it. It starts off really well. Basically, it's a third-person RPG, and I was thrilled because I thought it was first-person going into it. When the game starts and it's third-person, I gave it a little happy dance because, you know me. I love third-person. I'll take third-person any day over first-person. Personal preference, whatever. In fact, I'm not sure if there is a first-person mode or not. There might be. I haven't discovered if there is, but honestly, I didn't look for it very much. Anyway, the game basically starts with a pretty cool little intro, some hand-drawn images and some story. You start off as a kid who is in the wrong place at the wrong time. You are present when the prince of the land is accidentally killed on a hunting trip. It's totally not your fault. You just happen to be there, and you are the first on the scene when the prince goes down. Someone spots you, and they think that it's you. And you're like a kid at this point. You're like 10 or 11 or something like that. So you run away. The king is fucking pissed. He decides that he's going to kill every kid in the kingdom who looks like you to find you. And so your parents send you out to another country just to be safe. And so you leave the land and you don't know what's going on. You grow up, now you're like 20 something. So it's been more than 10 years. And the person who's been taking care of you while you're in hiding gets murdered, and you're not sure what's going on with that. So you come back to your hometown 10 plus years later to find out what the hell is going on. So returning to your hometown, you got to reconnect with the people, reconnect with the land, find out what's been happening in your absence. It's cool. It's a very simple setup, very straightforward, but I think it's compelling enough, and I think it tells you a lot about what to expect from the game. And you start off on like the edge of the kingdom with basically nothing in your possession. You've got like a backpack and a couple like super basic supplies or whatever, and then you just start walking. Now I will say up front, this game does not spend a lot of time on tutorialization, which is crazy to me because there is so much going on in this game. It is ridiculous. But I will say, so this game starts off really slow, and on one hand I think it's a little bit too slow, but on the other hand I think it is a very effective way to tell you what you're in for from the get-go. They do not give you any false impressions. So like what happens is you walk into this town. It's a village, small village, and the whole land is just big, and there's roads and grass and trees. It just looks like you're in this like idyllic kind of countryside, and you're walking along, and right away I noticed like you're walking on the path, like a dirt path. You're walking pretty faster. You veer off into the bushes. You walk a little slower. So I'm like, okay, nice detail. That's cool. You can hop over fences and stuff, so you're not stuck by little 2 foot high impedances, which is great. Good start. You get to the village and everybody's like, who are you? You're a weirdo, stranger, get out of here. And then, through a series of dialogues, you can be like, well, I'm looking for work. I'm new. And they send you on a couple quests right off the bat. I mean, you can wander. You can do whatever you want. You can just like walk around. It's like totally open world. As far as I have not hit a limit yet. I mean, there's been like water. There's places I don't want to go because I feel like it's dangerous. But like, I don't think there's any hard limit. I don't think there's an invisible wall. At least not that I hit. Maybe there is, but I spent quite a bit of time playing and I didn't see anything like that. So I think I'm led to believe that you can just do whatever you want. You're going to get killed for sure, but I mean, you can do whatever you want, which is great. So at some point you walk to, they want you to go find this guy who's pissed off the guards. He's a good guy, but he's got a bad temper and he doesn't like the guards messing with him. So they got into a scuffle. You go talk to this guy and you're not really sure where this goes. But what happens is after talking to this guy, he becomes your like follower / employee / friend. And he's just with you all of a sudden. And they're like, well, okay, let's set up a camp. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like from this point forward, like they drop you into these like these super deep systems where it's kind of just like, hey man, honestly, it feels like you can do almost anything in this world, which is wild. So like you have to like gather some sticks and wood and build a shelter. And the game, I will say the UI is pretty good. I think a lot of games like this type get super mega granular and can drown you in menu after menu after menu, but they don't. Like I feel there's a lot going on for sure. Like there's a lot here, but I think they're pretty smart about how it's laid out, and I was able to navigate this pretty easily. So despite the fact that they don't give you basically fuck all tutorials, the first thing is like build a shelter, and I'm like, okay, bitch, how? Like what do I do? So I start fucking around the menus, and after a while I find like, you got to like be creative with like using L1 and L2, R1, R2, like using your shoulder buttons and bumpers to navigate, plus the D-pad. And so you're kind of like figuring things out. I find a shelter, I place it down, and you can like put it like anywhere. You just like pick a spot, bro. So you pick a spot, and then it tells you like how much of each resource you need, which is cool, but then they don't tell you like where the resources are. So you've got to kind of just like search the land. I mean, it helps if you approach this game in like a what would I do in the real world to figure this out? And a lot of times that's what the answer is. So like if that was me in the real world, I'd be like, well, fuck, I guess I need to find some fucking logs. I'm going to go to the nearest wood stand, tree stand, and find some logs. And there they are. Right. And you need to find some flowers and like whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, flowers usually in a field. Let me go check. Oh, there they are. Like, so like a lot of times you could just use your like real world common sense. And I think that comes through a lot of the time. I will say, so far in the early game, the most important resource has been flax, which I don't know about y'all, but like I have very limited exposure to flax in the real world. I mean, I know it's a plant. It's like a grain or something. My wife has flax seeds in the house once in a while. She uses them for baking every so often. I think you can like blend them up in a smoothie and it gives you some kind of health benefit or something, but it's not something that I like, I don't regularly interact with flax on any level at all. But damn, you need flax for fucking everything. And like, you build a tent, you need some flax. You want to make an axe, get some flax. You want to do, I don't know. You want to like catch a wolf, get some flax. It's a little silly. So developers, if you're listening, like super impressed. No shade, but like take it easy with the fucking flax. It's like you guys go overboard a little bit. Thankfully, it's pretty easily found in a field. It's a purple flower. You'll find it in a bunch. But then you just have to kind of figure out how all these pieces of the world fit together. And there's like so many layers to all of this. So you build your tent, you got to build an outhouse, you got to build a campfire, you got to build a crafting table and a research table, and you need a place for your buddy to sleep, and you got to just like build your whole fucking camp from scratch. And so that takes like a while. It's not forever, but like it's actually like way more of a task than I thought it was going to be, especially as you're just beginning the game. And so I'm like, okay, this is okay, all right, that's fine, we're going to do this. And so I'm doing it. It all comes together, without too much fuss, and like once you figure out where stuff is in the menus and everything. But like basically every time somebody tells you to do something, you got to like look in the menu, look for a tutorial. Maybe there's a text tutorial, maybe there's something in the codex, maybe there's something in the menu. Like you look around, you find it. And like once your camp is built, it's like, okay, like you did all this stuff. Your guy is like a follower. He seems to be doing stuff, which I think is kind of awesome. Like you can talk to him. He tells you his story, but then also you can assign him 3 different roles. He's a worker, he's a companion, and he's a guard. Guard seems to be like he just has a weapon at the ready and stands by camp, and if anybody comes to fuck with it, then he fights them off. Companion is he just follows you around and does whatever you do. And a worker is the interesting one, where he seemed to be like gathering the stuff that we actually needed for camp. It didn't seem like he was useless. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what he was doing, but like I saw him walking around and I was kind of watching him for a minute, and like he brought some stuff that we actually did need to build the things, and he was kind of like putting some of it together himself. And I have to wonder, if I had left him alone to his own devices and just stood there the entire time, like would he have built the entire camp by himself? I mean, maybe he would have. He got some of it done, so that was pretty cool. So you go back to the main village, and there's like, you can talk to like everybody in the village, although they are very clear about who's got quests and who doesn't. So if you don't want to waste your time, you can just like skip those people, which I appreciate like big time. They give you a bunch of quests that you can do because everybody knows you as somebody who is new and somebody who wants to work. And so everybody's giving these random jobs. One lady's got like a chicken coop where the chickens are disappearing. One guy needs some herbs. One guy wants you to find a special shrine. One guy says there's a couple bandits camped outside the camp. You got to go take care of them. And so you can do whatever you want in any order that you want. And there's still just like unrolling systems. And so I picked a couple of these quests. Like they're kind of just like, you go place, you find the herbs, or you talk to the person and investigate some clues. You solve these dilemmas and come back, and people say, thank you very much, we appreciate you helping out the town. And then you go to this like thing where you have like town morale, like what the town thinks of you, what each person thinks of you. And then there's menus where they talk about like what your influence on the world in your immediate vicinity is. Are you a force for positivity? Are you a force for negativity? Because of your actions, are you more likely or less likely to get randomly attacked out in the woods when you're walking around? Like there's a shitload of stuff in it, and I'm like, God damn, this is like a lot. So then I go into like the crafting menu, and I'm not big on crafting in general, but this seemed like fine so far. But then I look at the crafting menu in the menu. Holy shit, there's like a million things in there, and I was like, oh damn, dude, this is like the Marianas Trench of crafting. There's like so many little things you can look at it, and like almost all of it was unlocked, so they weren't like throwing it at you. Like it was me digging around and finding it, but like I'm like, holy shit, that's like a lot. So many different things, but you can build buildings and traps and gear and all sorts of stuff, which was really interesting. But there just seems to be like so much to this thing, and the way, and you're never quite sure of like what's going to happen or like how real they're going to take it. So for example, I had my axe out. I was chopping some wood. I crafted an axe, took 2 seconds, started chopping wood, and I went to go talk to my buddy back at camp, and I wasn't sure like what the interface was. And so I accidentally whacked him with my axe, and I don't think it did any damage, but he's like, oh, I'm not talking to you. And so from that point forward, you have to like put your axe away before you can talk to him. So that was interesting. But then later on, I take my guy to go take care of some bandits. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to turn you from worker into companion. And he's like, yo, let's go. And so they do a little practice fight at first. And it's like no tutorialization at ever. He's like actually fighting you. And I'm like, okay, but wait. I guess I'll swing the axe with this button. And that worked. I'm like, I hope there's a block. Is this a block? And I'm kind of pushing buttons random. And he kind of does block. I'm like, okay, because that works. So I kind of like struggle through it. But I figured out. He and I go to the bandit camp. It's like two homeless dudes who are at the edge of camp, and they're just like fucking around doing whatever. So we rush them, and the first guy, he and I kind of double team. Like he's fighting from the front. I circle around to flank him, and I take him out from the back. The second guy comes out of the tent, and he attacks my buddy and kills him. I'm like, oh shit. So I kill that guy, and I look, and I'm like, oh my god, he's like dead. Like he is literally dead. I'm like, oh my god, there's no way to bring him back. He's literally fucking dead. And luckily I had saved right before this because I know how these games kind of work. And so I was like, okay, let's try that again. I reload the thing, and I'm more careful with the combat. I'm trying to be more careful, and so I'm watching his back a little bit more often. And we take care of the bandits, no problem, the second time, and he survived. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that was unscripted, but that was, I mean, to be able to lose your only follower that early in the game is pretty fucking harsh and or real. And so the consequences really kind of came in, and I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So I got to be like way careful. Like you got to be way more mindful of how you're walking through the world. It does not seem like there's any quick fix for any of this. And he was pretty fucking useful, dude. Like, and if I lose that guy, I'm just on my own and I have nobody else to help me out. I'm like, no. I can't lose this guy. Fuck that. So that was kind of a cold water in the face kind of wake up call as to how this game relates to you. So I respect that. I mean, I think it's good and I appreciate it. And I think the underlying thing from what I gather so far, and again, I feel like I am just barely scratching the surface. This game feels massive. It feels super deep. It feels super complicated. It feels like there is a lot going on here. For example, I spent all my time basically in my camp, which is like, I don't know, half a mile outside of the village. And then the village, and the village is like, I don't know, 10 or 15 huts and some roads and a couple stores or whatever. That took, I mean, I was there like all day, played that all day. I didn't even explore it all. I was kind of just running back and forth between the two locations. And again, I chose the camp at my own discretion. I just plopped it there. I could have put it anywhere. But then I pull back and I go to the map, and the map is like fucking enormous. And I'm like, oh my God. If I spent all this time just on this tiny ass little corner of the map, and there's like, there's so much to the map, like it goes north and it goes west and south and east, like as far, like huge amounts. I'm like, oh my God, is there stuff like all through this map? Like, are there more? I mean, of course there is. There's got to be more towns. There's got to be more villages. There's going to be more bandits. There's going to be wolves, whatever. There's going to be a castle, I'm sure. I'm like, oh shit. Like this feels so huge and so detailed. And at some point I could see some whispers of this in the menus, and they talk about it a little bit as you're playing the game, but like you've got to like manage the town by interacting with the town, and like maybe you've got to like rally these folks. It seems like at some point you're going to like build an army, but it's not just as simple as like clicking on a bunch of like soldier icons. I mean, you probably got to like do quests for these folks and like meet them. You probably know them by name. Like you probably got to like make their fucking armor yourself, and you've probably got to teach them combat, probably. I mean, I don't know. That feels like 100 hours away. Probably more like 500 hours away. But I'm like, damn, dude. Like, the vision and the scope and the breadth of what they're offering here, just for my one solid day of play, I'm like, oh my God. Like, if I was like 20 and I wasn't married and I, didn't have a bunch of responsibilities, I could see myself like just diving into this game and just like not surfacing for 6 months. I bet you could easily put 200, 300, 400 hours into this game. No problem. I'm guessing. I don't know how long it is for sure, and how much of that is optional and what the quest structure is and everything. But like just based on what I did, I'm like, oh man, like if I needed a second life, if I needed a fantasy escape, if I wanted to get away from the real world, I bet I could sink so much fucking time into this game and just like build up my camp and like make new friends and do these quests and explore the countryside and craft all this stuff and improve my relationship with the town and build my army and like, go to war with the next kingdom over. And it seems like all things are possible here, which is just fucking bonkers. It is really, really insane. And at this point, I'm just taking educated guesses based on what I've seen. So I can't say for sure how deep the rabbit hole goes, but man, I'm guessing just based on what I've seen. This is like, holy smoke. So like I said, I spent a whole day. Is it janky? Sure. Graphics a little bit rough. Yes, of course. Some of the voice acting is fine. Some of the voice acting is terrible. I think UI is pretty good, honestly. Like, I give big props to the UI. I think tutorials are terrible, but I love the approach, man. Like, I love the sincerity that they are approaching this content. It is gamified, of course, but it feels gamified in just the right way, where you know this is not as much work as it is in the real world, but it is also a significant amount of work. You're going to be very careful about how you approach things. I know I'll be fucking super careful before I get into combat, right? Like, this isn't just draw your sword and go kill some dudes and bounce. It's like, I needed to have bandages after the fight. I couldn't bandage up my friend, and he was hungry because we were tired, and you know, like, he could have died. He could have literally just died, and he did. So luckily there's a save. I can bring him back. But like, you know, like when the consequences are that heavy, like you really approach it differently. You really think about what you're doing, and you don't just like casually just, you know, act like a wanker and get into every fight you want. Now I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So like, I gotta think about this. Like, can I actually take this dude? Do I have some backup? And it's funny too, because when you talk about some of the other quests in town, one guy wants to go kill some wolves. One guy wants you to go, I don't know, investigate something. They're always like, take a friend. Don't go by yourself. That's stupid. Go, you know, don't go alone. And I'm like, oh yeah, brother, I hear you. Because fuck, this is a different kind of combat. It's not something to be taken lightly. Just like everything. I feel like everything in this game is not to be taken lightly. So I think it's fucking cool, man. I think it's really fucking cool. I am very impressed. The scope is crazy. They're shooting for the stars with this one. And I feel like so far, I'm playing it on PS5. I didn't mention that. And I got to say, the console port, fucking solid. I feel like it really works. No problem with the subtitles. You've got a choice between performance and quality. I chose performance, of course, because why would you not? But yeah, I feel like it works really well on a controller. And I feel like if you are looking for an entire world to get lost in, like huge responsibility, huge options, huge tasks, like just getting to know an entire town, getting to know an entire countryside. I'm really kind of blown away by this one. And like I said, if I was 20 years old and had nothing but free time, I would be like all over this, dude. It feels like a more earnest, more heartfelt kind of Oblivion, like less fantasy but more realistic, in quotes, of course. It's a video game. But you know, kind of like the scope of one of those Elder Scrolls games, but like take out all the monsters. I mean, maybe there is monsters. I haven't seen any yet. There could be. But it's been pretty realistic so far. So just like an Elder Scrolls, that size, that scope, that breadth, but you're just like a fucking regular ass dude with an axe, and you've got to make friends, and you've got to like be careful, and you got to find food and stuff like that. So if I was earlier, I would be all over this, right? I mean, this is way too big for me. I can't be sinking 500 fucking hours into a game like this. But if you can, if anything I've said sounds interesting, this game is like $30, like fucking bargain price on PlayStation. It's like $30 brand new. I'm not sure how much it is on PC, maybe even a little less, who knows. But this one I think is pretty interesting and pretty brave for what it's attempting. And so far from what I've seen, I feel like it's pretty successful. I mean, I definitely won't complain if there's a couple more tutorials or whatever, but I think for what it is, I'm really kind of awestruck a little bit. So I don't know how much more I'm going to put into it, because I feel like starting this game is like, okay, go and drink the ocean. And you start off with a couple sips and you're like, okay, that's been pretty good. But there's like the entire globe left is kind of what it feels like. It feels like there is so much to this game that I can't even begin to like make headway on it unless I want to like make this my full-time job. And I don't, but not because I don't like it, just because I can't afford to do that. So if you are looking for a full-time game job, or if you want to get into this giant world, or you're looking for something really massive that you can tinker around with and meet people and do stuff, this may be your jam. I think it's pretty fucking cool. Too big for me, but I love it. And I think it may be just the jam for some of you folks out there. So check it out. This is Bellwright, and this is coming from Donkey Team. It's on PC. It's on PlayStation 5. Works great on PS5. Maybe on Xbox. I don't know. But so far, not for me in my particular station in life, but basically huge thumbs up. I think huge thumbs up. All right, last game of the show, Black Flag Resynced, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Been excited for this one for a while, and just spoilers up front, it does not disappoint. If you've listened to past episodes, you'll know that I gave the original Black Flag, sort of, the original Black Flag a try. It was like last year. I owned it, or I bought it, or I forget what, but it was on the backwards compatible section of the Xbox X. This was originally for Xbox 360, I believe. And I'm like, oh, this is one of the Assassin's Creeds that I've never played. So just point of context, I am old enough to remember a world before Assassin's Creed existed. I remember all of us being very excited when we first heard of the first Assassin's Creed, having it come out and getting all wrapped up in that and watching the whole thing grow from there. Assassin's Creed was huge. On the GameCritics.com podcast back in the day, we talked about it many times. We had many devotees of that series. We endlessly talked about it. So it's been a thing for a long time. But back in the day, there was so many Assassin's Creed that after a while, I just got burned out on them. I just didn't want to play anymore. I think I got to Assassin's Creed. I think I played Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, okay, dude, that's like enough Assassin's Creed for me. That's because at that point, that was when Ubisoft was doing a lot of their bad habits of like, a million map markers, a billion things to collect. Like you climb to the top of every single tower and open up the map. And like, it was just like very formulaic. And they kept going to that same well over and over and over because it sold so well at first. But I think eventually everybody got sick of it. So before Black Flag came out, I was just like fucking over it. I was like, I'm done. I need to take a break. So I didn't play this one. Which I guess was unfortunate because I remember a lot of people really liking it a lot, but at the time it was hard to decide whether that was just the same old Assassin's Creed people wanting more Assassin's Creed or if it was genuinely different. So I just stayed away. But I finally, several years later, came back to it last year on the Xbox X backwards compatibility thing. And it was cool. Like I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. This is great. But I heard whispers at the time that they were going to remaster it. I'm like, well, if I'm going to play this, I want the best version, and I'm not going to sink all my time into this backwards compatible version. So I waited and I waited and I waited, and I wasn't sure if it was really going to come. And then there were more whispers, and then all of a sudden Ubisoft started canceling projects. And I was like, oh no. But then they're like, no, this one is still here. And I'm like, yay. And then yes, here we are, Black Flag resynced, and it definitely was worth the wait. So what the fuck is Black Flag? Let me tell you. So I'm guessing most people listening to this podcast are probably familiar with Assassin's Creed. At some point, there's like 97 of them, so I think most people have played at least one. But this is an older school one. This is kind of like this is going retro a little bit, and I think in many ways it's actually a really good thing. So let's talk about stories. You play the pirate Edward Kenway, and the thing that I think is fucking cool about this, are there spoiler warnings for a game that is this old, even though it's a new release? I don't know what the spoiler warnings are. I don't think this is much of a spoiler since it happens in the first 10 minutes of the game, but I don't know. I guess if you're concerned about spoilers, jump ahead 2 minutes or something. But basically you play a pirate. His name is Edward Kenway. He's out in the Caribbean trying to make his fortune. He gets into some big pirate battle, and on the ship that he's raiding, there is an assassin, like an actual assassin, of Assassin's Creed. The guys who wear the white hoods, and he's got the wrist blades, and he's carrying some kind of secret gear or whatever, secret item, secret knowledge, whatever. And so in the middle of the battle, he takes a bullet or something, and something happens where he can't save himself. So he's injured. They wash up on shore. Kenway tracks him down, and eventually he just takes his shit. Like the guy dies. He's not able to complete his mission. So Kenway takes his white hood, and he takes his stuff, and he pretends to be this guy. He finds out that he's supposed to deliver this thing to Havana, Cuba, to get a big reward. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to pretend to be this guy since nobody knows what he looks like. And I'll just show up and I'll say I'm him, and I'll sell this thing and I'll get a bunch of money, and all good. Win, right? So right off the bat, I think this is fucking interesting because we've gotten so many games where the main character is steeped in being an assassin and all that lore and the sci-fi and the DNA shit and all that stuff. But this is just like a guy. He's just like, I'm just like a guy, and I'm not actually an assassin, and I'm taking your shit, and I'm going to pretend to be one. And that's fucking cool. I think that's really interesting. I think that Edward Kenway is a great character. I think he's really well written. I think the supporting characters are pretty strong in this game. He quickly meets this guy who's this fat merchant guy from England who's super jolly. Dude's a riot. I love that guy. He's really funny. He meets a African pirate guy. I'm not it seems like he is an escaped slave who used to work on a sugar plantation and became a pirate. So he talks to him a little bit. His name's like Adewale. And so they talk about some racial issues, which I think is really good. They didn't have to talk about it, but they did. And I think Adewale is a cool character. I'm looking forward to getting to know more about him. So I think the voice acting is all just like really like notably good. And I think the story is notably good for an Assassin's Creed game. That's not backhanded praise or anything like that. It's just, sometimes they're more compelling than others. And this one I think is really compelling. I think Kenway is great. I love hanging out with him. I think he's a cool dude. He just wants to find his place in the world. He wants to get back to his girlfriend back in England. He wants to make his fortune. Those are all like really relatable things. And he's just like a real no nonsense kind of guy, which is great. So I dig all that. So the story is good. You eventually get to where you're going. Things go sideways. You get a pirate ship through events. And then you do a lot of like Assassin's Creed stuff, which is parkour, climbing, platforming, doing various quests. And then you also have a pirate ship. And you do a lot of pirate stuff in this game. I think this is the game that kicked off the kind of like pirate ocean combat fervor that kind of took over for a while. So you're on a ship, you control the ship, you have guns on all parts of your pirate ship, you fight other ships in the water, you steal their stuff. It's just fucking great. If you like pirates, I mean, this is like the shit. The graphics are really nice. When you are in the daytime, there's a day-night cycle, but during the daytime, everything is bright and green and warm and tropical. It looks amazing. The water looks amazing. Everything looks great. The character models are not like cutting edge, but I think that's totally fine. I think that's all right. I think it looks really, really, really good for being like an up-res 360 game. And there is a difference in how it works. I think people are used to modern Assassin's Creed, but I think a lot of people have forgotten or have never experienced what it used to be like, where you would just like, the parkour was different. It was a lot simpler. And I think that the combat was definitely way simpler. Some people think that's not great. Personally, I think for me, I think it's totally fine. And I'm kind of like excited about this welcome return to the old school style. So basically what this is you get into fights and you just have like basic weapons. I think you can equip like one pair of swords and some guns or something. There's a couple other things, but like you're not doing the, find 75 different weapons and you're constantly doing the stat comparisons and you're upgrading. It's none of that stuff. Just pick some fucking guns and a sword and just go for it. It doesn't really matter that much because when you get into the combat, a lot of it is like parry based and people kind of forgot like that's what it used to be like in the beginning. So you get into a fight. Yeah, you can attack and stuff, but what you really want to do is you want to wait for people to attack you. A gleam will appear on their sword or whatever when they're about to attack you. If it's blue, you parry. You parry, you instantly kill them. So like you just like wait for people to parry you or you parry them and then you kill them. It's not this like whole like up and down and high attack and low attack and switching weapons. It's just simple, real fucking simple. You get through the combat really quickly. If they gleam red, you dodge. Gleam blue, you parry. That's all there is to it. And it's simple. That's it. I love it. It's just like you get through, you kill 12 guys really quickly. You move on, you do something else. The stealth is also very different as well. There's no sight cones. There's no degrees of visibility. You're either visible or you're not visible. You're visible walking around. You duck down in a bush. You're invisible. And sometimes I think it's a little bit difficult to tell where people are looking, but also at the same time, they're not super hyper aware. As long as you're anywhere like vaguely behind them, they're not going to see you. And then in this particular game, if you do get spotted, you can usually just fight your way out of it. Combat is pretty easy. So if you do get spotted, it's fine. You just get up, you parry a couple guys. And one nice decision that is not often echoed these days, if you alert people or if people see you or guards get you, then you only fight like the cluster of guards who are like immediately there. It's not like the entire place comes after you, which is like so common these days. So I was like, for example, I was in a plantation, like a banana plantation or something like that, sneaking in, trying to steal some stuff. I was in a bush. I went to go kill a guy, and one of the other guards that I didn't notice saw me, and he alerted, and I'm like, oh shit. And I was considering restarting, but then I'm like, well, let's see what happens. And I forgot how often they want you just to play it out. Like, they don't want you to restart. This isn't like Hitman or, XCOM or anything, or, Desperados 3 or anything where you want to like restart your whole game as soon as you get spotted. You just find it out. Like 3 or 4 guys come over. It's not like 50 guys. You kill them, and then the whole thing just goes quiet again. So like, I really appreciate that they just have these little skirmishes that don't require you to, like, your whole game is not fucked if you get spotted, and then you just kind of move on and do that thing. I think the ship combat is really fun and done well. I enjoy the ship combat. Tooling around, you see a boat, whichever way you're looking with your camera is that will cue off which weapon you use on your boat. So for example, if you're staring straight ahead, you're going to use your nose cannon on the boat. If you're looking to the right, you're going to use your broadside cannons on the right side. You look to the left, you're going to use the cannons on the left. And if you look back, you're going to do like floating barrels that are like set on fire or something. As we all know, the famous pirate weapon of floating flaming barrels. But I think it's a really elegant system that's really well done. You can, they have these little guidelines to help you aim. You can get through some combat. If you get a ship disabled, you can either blow it up and get the goods, or you can, of course, board it, because that's what pirates do. So you pull up alongside, your pirates jump off, you kill them all, and then you jump on there too, and you steal their shit. It's just fun, just good, fun pirate shenanigans, pirate antics. Now, this is a game from back in the day, so there is a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of like sea shanties to collect. There's like little items to collect. There's chests to collect. There's map markers. I mean, this game is kind of indicative of the Ubisoft excess and bloat back then, but I will say you don't have to do all that. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just going from main mission to main mission, and just like, I'm just rolling along. I'm just doom, doing this thing, story bit, doing some fun stuff. I think the story missions are totally fun. And if I ever get the itch, I can do something, on the side. You can hunt animals and upgrade your gear, because sometimes your upgrades require specific things. So for example, I think the first pistol upgrade, I think you have one pistol, and if you want to upgrade to 2 pistols, you have to kill like 2 ocelots or something like that, because only an ocelot skin can hold your pistol. It's goofy, but it also gives you incentive to track down the animals and hunt them and get their stuff and then upgrade. But you don't have to. Like, you seriously don't have to. I think the combat is easy enough with the pairing and the basic system from back in the day. It's fine. Guns are fine. It's all good. You only do it if you want to. Tracking down the treasure chest is just like extra money and stuff. Every once in a while you get like a little tchotchke you can equip for some like minor upgrade. But like, it's there if you want to do it. You don't have to do it. If you want to like rinse every map, get every checkpoint, get every chest, I mean, you can do that. But for me, that's not really where my time is best spent. But I'm having a blast just being Edward Kenway, going around the Caribbean, sinking pirate ships, burning plantations, freeing slaves, just doing piratey stuff 24/7 is fucking good times, dude. I will also say that I don't have the specifics on this, but if you know the Assassin's Creed games, they have this big thing where they always want to talk about the DNA and how you're visiting these past times because there's a person in modern times who has DNA that's passed down, and they act like your DNA is like a hard drive that records every single experience of one of your ancestors, which is just a bunch of sci-fi hooey. I've always thought it's kind of dumb. I think most people do not get a lot of value out of taking a break from whatever you're playing to go do some sci-fi DNA navel gazing or something. And so from what I can tell, they have removed all of the futuristic DNA modern times segments. So for example, when I played this game on the up-res version last year, you would do some pirate shit, go around, do some stuff, whatever, kill some guys, sink some boats, steal some booty, whatever. And then you would pause and you would like get warped out of this and go to modern times. And you were like a game developer. You would get a first person view. You're in a game development studio. You're walking around. You're talking to people about developing the game that you just played. You're about developing the pirate game. It's this weird meta thing. And it just like sucked. It just sucked. Like it sucked you out of doing the pirate stuff. You had to do some puzzles and shit that like, I mean, I didn't want to do that stuff. I don't know anybody who really enjoys that stuff. And they just kept up with this whole like modern DNA thing that it's terrible. Just fucking terrible. So as far as I can tell, they've removed all that stuff by popular demand. I think people just want to play the pirate stuff. And I fully fucking agree with that. I haven't seen any modern day DNA sci-fi stuff except the very, very, very opening cutscene. The very opening cutscene is like, yeah, you're going to go in the memories of your ancestors' DNA. A snore, okay, whatever. And then once you get in there and you're Edward Kenway, I think you just stay him for the entire rest of the game. So I'm glad that I have not seen any of that new modern stuff. I think the game is better without it. It's kind of like a dream come true. So cheers to Ubisoft for doing that. And I'm just having a blast. It's just great to go back and play something like this from an earlier era. Simpler combat, story mission to story mission, sailing this pirate ship, killing dudes, parrying things, climbing things. It's all beautiful and tropical. It's just a great time. I'm having a blast with that. I think this is wonderful. And I think that Edward Kenway being such a cool dude and having his friends along is really fun. The story is really great. It's just thumbs up, man. This is like a really, really good game. I definitely think this is one of the best in the entire Assassin's Creed series. I've played not all of them, but boy, have I played many of them. I would still put Odyssey at the top because Cassandra is the ultimate shit, the best character they've ever come up with. Love Odyssey like so hard. But I think this one is great. Edward Kenway kicks ass, and I think this is really fun. So definitely a big thumbs up. I still have loads of missions to go. I'm not even halfway through, I don't think. There's a lot of content here, so you can buy this game and you can really milk it for a while, which is a good thing. So I think that's great. Looking forward to Conquering the Caribbean, and I'll report back when I'm done. But so far, I think Black Flag is awesome. If you've never played it, I think this is one of the ones to play. If you have played it and you have fond memories of it, I think this is a better version of it. So it's win-win-win all the way across. Black Flag Resynced is great. All right, folks, the game portion of the show is now officially done, but as y'all know, every week I do spend a few minutes in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right, it's time for the TV and movie roundup. I don't talk about it that often, but the wife and I are huge fans of stand-up comedy. We watch a lot of stand-up comedy. We really think about it, we study it, we really appreciate it. It's something that we really like a lot. And we just watched one recently by Aaron Chen. He is a Asian person from Australia, I think. And he made like a couple of his bits are about the accent that he has and stuff like that, which is kind of notable. Pretty good. Not the best, not the worst. I have seen Aaron. I follow him on Instagram, and he's got some pretty good clips up there, and that's why we watched it. So I think if you're in the mood for a stand-up comedy special, it's pretty good. His particular thing is that he'll say this joke, and he'll think it's really funny, and then it might not land exactly, but then he kind of reacts to his own joke, and that kind of makes it funnier. That doesn't always work. I know that some comics try to do that, and other people have tried it with less success. But I think it's really funny when he does it. Something about the way that he laughs at his own joke is just like really hilarious. And it makes you want to laugh along too. So he's got some good jokes. He's got some good presentation. He's just like a quirky kind of funny guy. So I think this was a pretty good one. Not the best, but pretty good. Definitely worth watching for sure. The one we watched was on Netflix. It was Aaron Chen, Funny Garden. I think that was pretty good stuff. So if you like stand-up comedy, check that one out. And if you've got a good one to recommend, send it in. I'll check it out for sure. The wife and I have also started watching a series on the History Channel. It's called The Food That Built America. This show is fucking interesting as hell if you are like at all. I mean, if you're interested in food, it's like triple interesting. But if you're just like not interested in food, but you just like are curious, still a really good documentary. There's like 3 or 4 seasons of it. And they talk about a different topic each show. So like one show, they'll talk about coffee. One show, they'll talk about cereal. One show, they'll talk about pizza. One show, they'll talk about Subway sandwiches or something. And they'll go into the history. I mean, specifically America. I mean, it's in the title. The Food That Built America. And they'll talk about how a particular franchise got off the ground and what they were responsible for and the things that they went through. They give you this like really abbreviated version of how these people got their start. And it's mind-blowing. It's also mind-blowing how recent all of this stuff was. Like, I'm 50 years old, dude. I was born in 76 and I've lived through a lot of stuff. And I kind of assumed that like a lot of the stuff that I'm familiar with has been around like basically forever. I think as humans, we're kind of conditioned to do that. But watching this show, it's wild how much of this stuff is so recent. They talk about like, for example, like the pizza episode was like completely mental. They talk about Domino's and Pizza Hut getting off the ground. And I don't know if you're even remotely like my age or younger. I mean, you've kind of always been around those brands, but they were talking about like when these guys started introducing pizza was like unknown in America outside of like a couple spots on the East Coast. And they were like, people didn't even know what pizza was. They didn't even know how to eat it. They had no clue what it was. They opened up a pizza shop. Nobody came in because nobody wanted pizza because nobody knew what pizza was. And I'm like, what? How was there ever a world where we didn't know what pizza was? That's fucking insane, dude. And so they talk about stuff like that and like the different choices they had to make and how hard it was to get pizza or into people's hands. And the thing that really fucking blew me away about this one was like, they're like, hey, so the guys at, I think it was Domino's. Was it Domino's? Yeah, it was Domino's. When they started doing delivery, they like invented pizza delivery. and they were like, oh, the boxes of pizza that they put their pizza in were no good back then. So the guy at Domino's talked to a guy who was working in the paper industry, and they're saying that the guy at Domino's invented fucking corrugated cardboard because that was the thing that was strong enough to get his pizza. Can you imagine? We wouldn't have corrugated cardboard like for anything if it wasn't for the guy at Domino's who needed something to put his fucking pizzas in. That's crazy. Like, the implications of that are fucking so insane. They talk about like Subway sandwiches and how people didn't know what Subway sandwiches were, and like what what you needed to do, and how they exploded the franchise, and like how they got that in people's hands. They talked about Cinnabon. Cinnabon, I didn't realize, is from Seattle. I'm in Seattle. The mall that is closest to my house is the mall where they started Cinnabon, the very first Cinnabon ever. I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea. The guy that was behind Cinnabon was not a baker. He was just like some business schmuck who had a lot of money, and he wanted to make his mark somehow. And so he tried to cut a deal with these people on the East Coast who did cinnamon rolls. They said no. So he's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. With like no knowledge, he hires a baker. The baker who created the Cinnabon recipe is here in Washington State. Just some random like baker. She made the recipe and then she fucked off and left. And then he's like in the kitchen by himself trying to figure it out, trying to bake shit on his own. And he comes up with the idea that if he underbakes everything, then it all makes his recipe work, because the cinnamon hits a certain way, you smell it a certain way, he gets them out on the table like a lot faster. It's just fucking wild. All these like little things that happen, like Panda Express, the guy at Panda Express. I mean, for me, I feel like Panda Express has been around forever, but like they're like this global franchise now, like multiple $1 billion of income. He like invents orange chicken. It's not a Chinese dish traditionally. He's like, I needed something that seemed like exotic for the white people, that was spicy but not too spicy, and tasty but not too tasty, and weird but not too weird. And I got to come up with something for these white folks here in America. And he's like, boom, orange chicken. And like all of a sudden it's like this like worldwide phenomena, so popular that the people back in China got to start cooking orange chicken. Like, that's crazy. Insane stuff. Love this fucking series. I learned so much about it. It's just really, really interesting. The food that built America is fucking fantastic. Love it. Final thing I watched this week. One of my friends, a kid of one of my friends is a teenager. We talk about Transformers every once in a while. I think it's pretty cool that he's into Transformers, and I'm an OG Transformers fan, so we kind of connect on that. And he was saying he had watched a movie recently. He's been doing some diving into the quote-unquote oldies on his own, because he's like 14 or 15. And so what he thinks is oldies is it's very funny to me, because I am literally old. And so like, he'll talk about something and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not what do you mean an oldie? Like, when I think of oldies, I think of black and white, or something from, some of the silent movies and stuff. And he's like going back to the 90s or the 2000s, even for him, is like oldies, which is wild. But he recommended Evolution to me, and I had never seen this one before. It was by Ivan Reitman, one of the guys behind Ghostbusters. And this stars David Duchovny and a bunch of other people that I can't remember. I forget their names. Anyway. Basically, like, this meteor crashes down to Earth, and it has some kind of like hyper evolving sludge on it. It lands, and then it just like starts evolving like crazy. Like, at first it like makes little cellular animals, and then it's plants, and then it becomes fish and frogs, and it just like, evolves and evolves and evolves and evolves. It's going to take over the planet. And so David Duchovny and his group are like studying it and fighting back and all this stuff. It's not super serious though. I mean, it's definitely comedy, a lot of comedy. Like, think Ghostbusters, but like maybe like 1 degree raunchier and 1 degree stupider. It was made in, I think, 2001, and it definitely has that late 90s vibe to it, where there's a lot of like semi-sexist bro energy going on. A couple of like off-color jokes where I'm like, ooh, that didn't age very well. But it was definitely not anywhere near as bad as like other stuff from that same period. So I think it was watchable, but a lot of the stuff just had like that dude energy or like extreme energy to it, which was kind of wild. But the CG was actually pretty good, and it was just kind of, it was like mindlessly entertaining for an afternoon. If you want to just like check out, eat some popcorn and watch something that's not going to make you think too much, I think it was cool watching them kill the monsters and just go around, and a couple of laughs and stuff like that. It was a good enough time. And it gives me something to talk about with my my friend's kid. We can connect like that, and whatever, bridge the generation gap through the power of comedy, I guess. So anyway, all right, folks, that's a show. Before the closing music, we'd love for you all to leave reviews, share the show on social media. Most important of all, please recommend Video Games to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. As always, we'd love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up directly, SoVideoGamesPodcast@gmail.com. You can hit me on social media I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. You can hit me up in the So Video Games Discord, which is totally free of charge. We've had a lot of really good conversations going on. Got a lot of really fucking cool people in Discord. Would love to have you join us and just chat it up. You can come aboard anytime you like. Just drop me a line through the channels I mentioned, and then you can hop on in free of charge. And finally, if you like this episode and you want to hear more, you can support this show and also sister site GameCritics.com by going over to patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 496. Thank you again for joining me here in the So Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week.